2026 Eagles are either reloading or they're lying to themselves. A.J. Brown is gone, Jalen Hurts is learning a new offense, and Philly is trying to replace one superstar with a committee of speed, depth, and prayer. The defense still looks nasty enough to keep this thing alive while everyone on offense figures out where they stand, but the NFC isn't waiting because Seattle has the crown, the Rams have the height, and Chicago could punch a hole in the whole plan by week 3. So are the Eagles still built for no Super Bowl run, or was this the year the identity crisis finally sends Philly through a drywall panel? The Philadelphia Eagles did something you're not supposed to do when you're chasing a Super Bowl. They traded A.J. Brown. And look, there's no version of this where losing a receiver like that doesn't hurt. Brown was a bully on the outside, a red zone nightmare, the kind of target who had defensive coordinators wandering the halls of their hotel the night before kickoff. So if your first reaction was, what the hell were they thinking? That's fair. But this is where the Eagles' 2026 season gets interesting, because Philly isn't pretending Brown was some random guy they can replace for the motivational poster to clean depth chart. The question is whether the offense can become less predictable without him. That starts with Jalen Hurts, hinges on DeVante Smith proving he's not just a perfect running mate, but a true number one, and it requires Dallas Goedert to turn last year's touchdown explosion into something defenses have to spend resources to stop. It's also going to take Dontayvion Wicks cleaning up the drops enough to make his big play flashes matter. That's the gamble. The Eagles might not be more talented without A.J. Brown, but if this new version spreads the ball, plays faster, and stops feeling like every big moment has to be forced through one superstar, the offense might breed a little better. And that's what we're going to figure out today. Did Philly get worse, or did they just make Jalen Hurts more dangerous? Then it's his so-called easy road back to the Super Bowl hiding a trap door. Cue the cheerleaders, hit the buttons, and settle in because we're about to give some tough love to the Eagles about the 2026 season.
And now it's official. A.J. Brown is a New England Patriot. Congrats to the Pats. You got yourself a great wideout.
Philly fans seem divided on the Brown trade, but the bottom line is that the beast is gone. The question is whether Philly can turn one giant problem into a different kind of offense. Because for all the talent this team had, there were times when the passing game felt disconnected. Jalen Hurts had a lot of mouths to feed while also being expected to rescue every broken play, win every short yardage knife fight, keep an entire city's blood pressure under 150. It's not a recipe for clean football. Now Mannion steps in with a system that should be more timing-based, more spread out, and hopefully less dependent on Hurts playing hero ball every time the game gets weird. That's the upside. Hurts doesn't have to become a different quarterback, he has to become a cleaner distributor. And the pieces are still there. DeVante Smith's proven he can carry a bigger load. In fact, he finished with slightly more receiving yards than Brown last season, so the idea of him becoming the true number one isn't some desperate fan fiction. Goedert gives him the red zone hammer, and after 11 touchdowns last year, defenses can't treat him like the third name on the scouting report. Then comes the replacement plan, and that's where this gets more interesting. Dontayvion Wicks gives him signs, touchdown juice, and the kind of talent that makes you understand why Philly wanted him. But the drops are real, and Eagle fans are absolutely not the fan base you want to test with that particular disease. Just ask Nelson.
Toward the end zone and off the fingertips of Agholor.
He's assisting people down. My man just started throwing babies out the window. We was catching them, unlike Agholor and his mishaps. I like to put that out there.
But if Wicks cleans up the drops, he can be a legit problem. Hollywood Brown and Elijah Moore bring a veteran presence and blistering speed, while Mekhi Lemon is the rookie swing piece. He may not get force-fed right away, no matter what the depth chart says in July, but that's fine. He doesn't need to carry the Brown replacement plan by himself. He just needs to be one more reason defenses can't roll everything towards DeVante. And that's the point. The Eagles aren't replacing A.J. Brown with one receiver. They're doing it with a mix of youth, speed, experience, and distribution. And to be honest, this receiver room was more than adequate for Mannion's schemes, which feature condensed formations, extensive pre-snap ships, and play-action concepts designed to make the run and pass look identical, especially when your running game is Saquon Barkley and Tank Bigsby with a Jalen Hurts kicker. When the passing game gets ugly, just hand it to the monsters. So now this offense is not more talented without A.J. Brown, but it might be less crowded. But if Mannion gets Hurts playing faster, spreading the ball, and leaning into Saquon instead of fighting the offense every week, the Eagles get back to being an NFC nightmare. But even if the offense takes a minute to find itself, this is still Philadelphia, which means the Super Bowl case starts on defense. And this ain't just a Jalen Carter conversation anymore. He's still the Grim Reaper inside because interior pressure ruins everybody's day, but the Eagles have built this thing in layers. Jordan Davis and Moro Ujima round out the big three out front, and that group put up a combined 12 sacks last season. At linebacker, the depth charts are kind of all over the place right now, but we're looking at Zach Bond and Jahad Campbell inside with some rotation of Nolan Smith, Jonathan Grainer, and Alex Hunt coming off the edge. This front has enough bodies to keep coming without asking one dude to save the whole pass rush by himself. That matters in a Vic Fangio defense, because if Oint doesn't always decide the house. Sometimes just to make the quarterback wait a half beat longer than he wants to, then let the rush close the door. That's where the back seven gets nasty. Zach Bond was everywhere last year, finishing with 123 tackles, 2 picks, 3.5 sacks, and a Pro Bowl nod. Jahad Campbell gave them 80 tackles as a rookie and should only get more comfortable in the middle. And the core room got a lot more interesting with Rick Woolen coming over from Seattle. This is a massive length upgrade on the outside. Now pair Woolen with Quinyon Mitchell, who had 17 passes defended and earned first-team Pro Bowl honors, and Cooper DeJean, who had 93 tackles, 16 passes defended, 2 picks, and his own first-team All-Pro spot. That's how you make Fangio's defense annoying as hell. You have size outside, you have versatility inside, you have corners who can survive without constant babysitting, and you have enough movement in the secondary to make quarterbacks feel like the coverage changed while the ball was leaving their hand. If the Eagles can rush with depth, tackle through Bond and Campbell, and let Woolen, Mitchell, and DeJean wreak havoc in the secondary, they won't need every game to be pretty. They just need enough ugly ones to get back to January. Now we get to the part where everyone starts penciling in wins like they're Nostradamus. The Eagles' 2026 schedule looks friendly on paper, and to be fair, part of it is. The travel is manageable, there are stretches where they can stay home, get into rhythm, and avoid the kind of cross-country road trips that make teams look drunk by the third quarter.
Week 1. What's wrong with him, bro?
So let's talk business. What we got?
Commanders.
Ooh, okay.
So yeah, if you're just looking at the schedule in July, you can talk yourself into Philly stacking wins early and building a cushion. That's the good news. The bad news is that the NFL loves to hand you a pillar right before hitching with a shovel, because this schedule gets nasty late. Seattle in week 15, Houston on Christmas Eve, San Francisco in week 17. That's 3 straight games against teams built to lean on you, hit you, and test whether all that depth still looks cute after 4 quarters of adult football. But that matters for Philly because this isn't about getting to January. It's about what kind of shape they're in when they get there. The Eagles have the roster to beat up softer teams. He'd be an idiot to doubt that. The question is whether this new version of the offense can stay efficient when the schedule stops being friendly, and whether the defense can survive 3 straight rock fights without casualties. And then there's the division. The NFC East finished 6th out of 8 last year, but division games in this stupid neighborhood are never normal. Dallas games turn into legal disputes, Washington games get weird for no reason whatsoever, and the Giants can be terrible and still spend 3 hours ruining your life out of spite, and now they have a Harbaugh at the wheel. So when people call this schedule easy, fine, maybe it is. But easy schedules don't mean easy seasons. They usually mean the trap is better hidden. And for the Eagles, that trap is sitting in December. And that brings us to the real problem. The Eagles are trying to win a clean little division argument. They're trying to get through the NFC. And that conference has turned into a bad place to have questions. Sam Darnold has a ring now, which sounds something like you'd read in a gas station prophecy book, but it happened. And the Hawks are anything but happy not kicking off 2026, ranked behind LA. Seattle has the trophy, but the Rams have the offseason hype machine and a roster that makes people start saying stupid things like juggernaut before anyone even puts on a helmet. And so it doesn't get to ease into that conversation. They get Chicago in week 3 than the Rams in week 4. That's a problem because the Bears in Chicago are exactly the kind of early season game that can be railed whole easy schedule stupidity and a hurt. And if the Eagles are still figuring out who they are without AJ Brown, that Monday night trip and turn into a very public mess. 6 days later, here come the Rams. That could be an identity test before Columbus Day. And that's before we even get to San Francisco, because the Niners are still the Niners. You can bury them in injuries, drama, and off-season noise, and somehow they still show up in December looking to start a bar fight. So the question isn't whether the Eagles have talent. Of course they do. The question is whether this version of the Eagles can harden fast enough to survive the teams that already know who they are. The Super Bowl path is there. Just run through the nastiest parts of the conference before anyone in Philadelphia gets to feel comfortable. So that's the Eagles' first look. A little scary, a little weird, very Philly, which means half the fan base is already booking hotels at LA for February, while the other half is looking to take someone out for dealing AJ Brown away. That feels about right. So drop it in the comments. Are the Eagles still a Super Bowl threat, or did losing AJ Brown lock them down a tier? Hit subscribe, keep it locked on Snap Count, and don't go anywhere, because the 2026 NFC is already looking like a knife fight in a Wawa parking lot.